be a leader today? Whether it's a leader of a community, a gabbai, a rabbi, a person that's a position of power, how to be a leader today. Because a lot of people say, listen, I have a lot of friends. I don't know if I want to talk to my friends this way and tell them the truth. Maybe it's hard for them to hear it. Maybe this, maybe that. I heard a shiur by a Talmid Chacham who was a Talmid of Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav shalom. This Rav Simcha Bunim Cohen, and he had a drasha that he talked about the need to learn about Gehenna, the need to learn about Olam Haba and how it's not all rosy. And he says one of the reasons why people are not scared of death is because there's so much money being invested into the funerals today that it seems like a nice thing. There's so much compliments that people give the people that just died. It seems like a nice thing to die. These people don't have a concept of what it means to die and what happens and where life really truly begins. And he says when he was younger, he went to Rav Moshe Feinstein. And Rav Moshe Feinstein asked him, how many friends do you have? And, as a young man, he said to him, I have 20 friends. So Rav Moshe Feinstein asked him this a couple of times, how many friends you have? And then he kept repeating the same answer. Until Rav Moshe Feinstein says to him, Simcha, all you have is acquaintances. You don't have a single friend. Huh? How does the Rav know I don't have a single friend? He says, you know who's your friend? You know who's your friend? Your friend is somebody that's crying at night, worried at night, can't sleep at night because he's afraid that you're not going to go to Olam Haba. You're not going to go to heaven because you don't want to pray on time, because you don't want to keep Shabbat the right way, because you don't learn Torah, and so on and so forth. That's a friend. Do you have friends like that worry about you at night? That worry about you whether you're going to go to Olam Haba or not? He says to him, no, Kvod Rav, I don't have any friends like that. And he says, from that day on, never had a single friend. I have a lot of acquaintances, he says. I don't have any friends. I don't have anybody crying over me whether I have Olam Haba or not. And that's really the big question. Do we really cry over our friends and family, worried that they have Olam Haba? Do we cry about the nation of Israel, of whether they have Olam Haba or not? Do we really care of whether other people go to heaven or not? That's the question. And if we say, yeah, I care, so I send them a shiur. Okay, so you send them a shiur. Did they watch it? No, they didn't watch it. Okay, so what'd you do then? Oh, I stopped sending them stuff. That's how much you care? Is that how much you want somebody to care for you? No, but I don't want to go and jump on them and this and that. Or in other cases, you have people attacking people without taking any consideration of where they came from and where they are and what's going on in their life, and they simply just attack. It's also not the right approach. So the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says the following. We're going to learn a little bit about how to be a leader, whether that leader is a rabbi or an individual. Today, b'makom she'en ish tishtadel liot ish, the Mishnah says. In a place there's no leader, you be the leader. So, the Gemara says in Masechet Sanhedrin, page 8a, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Smalai, Rabbi Semalai. Rabbi Elazar said in the name of Rabbi Simlai. The second verse, talking about a verse in the Torah in the book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 12, that's talking about the relationship between Moshe Rabbeinu and Am Yisrael. Second verse is a warning to the community that the fear of a judge should be upon them. And the first verse is a warning to the judge that he should tolerate the community. So here we have a verse in the Torah that the Gemara says. We have one verse that talks about how the people have to be afraid of their leader, of their rabbi, respect him, honor him. Yes, there's also halachot in the Rambam of how a rabbi is supposed to behave, never socializing with the people. Never being intoxicated in front of them, never even eating next to them, and acting with a kalut rosh, which is like levity and so on. And we're going to go into that a little bit. But the second thing it says is that the judge, the rabbi, the leader, he also gets a warning. What's his warning? That he should tolerate the community. Tolerate the community? What do you mean tolerate the community? How much can he tolerate the community, Gemara says? To what extent should a judge be required to tolerate the community? Amar Rabbi Chanan ve'tamar Rabbi Shabtai. Rabbi Hanan, and some say it was Rabbi Shabtai. Two Chachamim mentioned this, or perhaps one of them in a. It says, "Kasher Yisau min et Yudnik." That as a nursing father carries a suckling child. That's what it's. That's the verse from the Torah, book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 12. Where it says that as much as a father tolerates a baby, the baby is constantly on the mom, wakes her up at night. He's constantly taking the attention of the mom. He makes her sick. He breaks her head. He makes her constantly wants to eat. Constantly has to change him. Constantly this. Constantly that. What can the father do? What can the father do? Why? I can't stand this baby. What are you gonna do? He's a little baby. What is he gonna do? What are you gonna do with this baby? It's your son. It's your daughter. What are you gonna do with the baby? Nothing. So as much as the father has to tolerate the baby, the mom is an unusual relationship. Why? Because the baby to her is like a piece of her body. Why is she going to get mad at a piece of her body? She's going to get mad at her right hand because the left hand won't go. You can't get mad at the baby. It's the baby. The mom is a completely different relationship with the father. But yet the father tolerates the baby. Why he tolerates the baby? Because the baby. And at the same token, what are you going to do? Your partner's in this crime. Your partner in this creation. Your partner in the whole thing. So even though this baby is destroying the body of your loved one, your wife, even though this baby is destroying her sleeping patterns to the point she has insomnia, even though this baby doesn't stop eating and doesn't stop changing and doesn't stop crying, even though this baby won't let you have a single conversation, you as a Abba have to tolerate him. And from you we're going to learn how much we, the leaders, have to tolerate the community. Okay, Baruch Hashem. But how much is that? Was this just a teaching? Was this just a suggestion? Rambam, Ilchot Sanhedrin, chapter 25, Halakha number 1. It's forbidden for a judge to assert himself in a lordly and haughty manner over his community. Instead, he should conduct himself with humility and awe. Any leader who casts unnecessary fear upon the community without intentions for the sake of heaven will be punished by heaven. And he will not see a son who is a Torah scholar, as implied in the book of Job, chapter 37, verse 24. Therefore, people fear him. He will never see anyone with a wise heart. So, halakha number 1, the Rambam Paskin's halakha, is that the leader can't just scare people just because he has a position of power or anything like that. So then you can say, hold on a second. So he has to be nice. He has to be afraid of his cue. And that's what a lot of rabbis today are afraid of people. They don't tell them, don't drive on Shabbat. They won't tell the guy that's married to a Gaya that he can't be Chazan. They won't tell people the truth. They won't tell the people that she's walking around Imadish. They won't say nothing to them. Why? Say, wait, I'm following the Torah. I'm following Halacha. It says that you shouldn't scare people. Hold on a second. That's just the first halacha. That's the first halacha. Second halacha. What's second halacha? Similarly, a judge may not treat them with capriciousness, which is with kalut rosh, with levity, with joking around, hanging out, being friends with them. No, he should not treat them that way, even though they are common people. He shouldn't say, listen, they don't know what they're talking about, these people. They grew up in a kibbutz. They grew up in America, which, America in Hebrew is like the am that's rik, the nation that's empty. They grew up with emptiness, only desires. They grew up in a materialistic world. They don't know Torah. So it's okay. You could just leave them alone. They won't even understand even if you give them a lecture about schar ve'onesh, reward and punishment. They won't even understand if you talk to them about olam haba. They won't understand these people. So whatever they want to do, they want to do. And if they want to do tshuva, fine, they can do tshuva. It's not my problem. Rambam says you are violating the Torah. You can't treat the people that way. Why? Didn't you say I was supposed to be scared of them? No, you have to have humility and only bring fear if it's for the sake of heaven. Treating them like they're little children, you're not allowed to. Yeah, but they don't know. They didn't grow up religious. Read the halakha. Continue. You know what it says? It says, he should not step over the heads of the holy people, even though they are simple people and lowly, they are descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the hosts of God who he led out of Egypt with great power and a strong hand. Don't treat Am Israel like idiots and decide for them that they can't handle the truth. Don't treat Am Israel like fools, like simpletons, because you grew up frum and they did not. Your father's a rabbi and their father is a shoe salesman. No, Habibi. Their grandfather is the same grandfather you have, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and therefore you have to give them the truth the way it's supposed to be done. And sometimes that truth is scary. You have to give them the scary truth, but remember, you're only giving them the scary truth to help them out of humility, out of care, not because you just want to scare people, but rather because you care. And what about if they don't want to listen to you? What about if they complain? Oh, Rabbi, come on, I have a game on Shabbat. Can I just play this one baseball game? Oh, Rabbi, come on, listen, I know you told me not to go to the movies, but I couldn't help myself. I went to this movie. And they do things that are annoying. And they do things that completely, seem like they're discrediting you. So what do? The Rambam says what the Gemara says. He should patiently bear the difficulty of the community and their burden like Moshe Rabbeinu, as it says in the book of Numbers, chapter 11, verse 12, the same source that the Gemara mentions, as a nursemaid will carry an infant. And the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verse 16 says, and I commanded your judges. This is an admonition, a rebuke to the judges to bear the community like a nursemaid carries an infant. Take an example from Moshe Rabbeinu, the master of all prophets, whom the Holy One, blessed is he, sent to Egypt. And it says in Exodus chapter 6, verse 12, and I command them concerning the children of Israel. And the oral tradition relates that Hashem told Moshe and Aaron to accept this mission even though the people would curse them and stone them. This is Pele Plaim, Rabotai. Meaning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu in the verses, you do this, and they'll remember you like they remember me. But the oral tradition tells us they'll remember you, and they'll curse you just like they curse me. They'll throw stones at you just like they throw stones at me, Moshe Rabbeinu. And just like I love them and I have patience for them, you do the same. And you, Mr. Leader in New York and in Florida and in the UK and in Australia, are expected to learn and do the same. Whether you are a leader of a community or a small family, have to do the same. That's what we have it here. It's not halakha for Moshe Rabbeinu. Halakha is not for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu knew it. And then the next halakha says that the judge has commanded to fulfill this mitzvah. So too the community is commanded to honor the judge. As it says in Deuteronomy 1:18, and I command you. This is a commandment to the community that they should treat the judge with awe. He should not act in a demeaning manner in their presence, nor should he conduct themselves in a frivolous manner. And halakha number 4 continues, says that when a person is given a position of leadership over the community, he's forbidden to perform work in the presence of 3 people, lest he be demeaned in their eyes. He can't just start fixing his house in front of people or start doing all types of things in front of the people. Why? They're going to start looking at him like he's the gabai, like he's the cleaning lady of the synagogue. They have to make arrangements that somebody else is going to do these things. Now, if performing work in public is forbidden to him, certainly it's forbidden for him to eat and drink or to become intoxicated in the presence of people at large, and in the gatherings of the common people, and in friendly get-togethers. Woe to those judges who conduct themselves in this manner, disgracing the Torah of Moshe. They debase its judgments and lower them to the earth, casting them in the dust, bringing about harm to them and their descendants in this world and in the world to come. These are the first 4 halachot of chapter 25 of Hilchot Sanhedrin of the Rambam. Meaning that there is an extraordinary responsibility that the community has to respect The rabbis stop expecting them to come to every bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah and brit milah and expect them to eat and have a drink and do l'chaim. This is not the way that a rabbi is supposed to. And if he is doing it on a regular basis, you may want to seek a replacement. Why? He became one of the community. He's not fit to be a leader. On the other hand, they have to honor him. And he has to honor them, but not honor them in such a way that he's scared to tell them the truth. Quite the opposite. Honor them in a sense that he tells them the truth, even if the truth is scary, in order to help them and wake them up from their slumber. What's causing their slumber? What's causing their slumber is their lack of understanding of what sins are. What sins are. In the Sefer, Chishukei Chemed, Masechet Baba Kama, page 72b, by Rav Zilberstein, Shichyeh. He brings a story. He says years ago, about 16 years ago, came out a psak halacha from Rav Eliashiv, alav shalom, that it's forbidden to wear wigs because they're coming from India and it's connected to idolatry. This surely is something that we have proven that not only was Rav Eliashiv correct, but the situation has become worse since then, and it's virtually impossible to find a wig in the market today that's made of real hair that's not sourced of Indian idolatry. But needless to say, some people have done tshuva and removed their wigs and destroyed them, while others continue to deny the truth, or better yet, they fight the truth by saying this is nonsense, or they have some other leniency of some kind to do, to this, to that. Fine. Well, the original psak Rav Zilberstein says came out years ago, about 16 years ago, and it caused a major turmoil in the Jewish world. When the Gdol Ador, the biggest rabbi in the Ashkenazi world, says you're forbidden to wear a wig, people heard. He's literally, him and Rav Ovadia are the last two that the world listened to. That when they said something, you saw the masses change. Today you could have major chamchamim, major poskim, major kedoshim say something, 95% of people disregard it. It's unfortunate, but that's a reality. But when Rav Eliashiv said this, you literally saw bonfires in communities in Brooklyn, in Israel, all over the world, bonfires of wigs being burned, destroyed, because that's the only thing you're allowed to do with something that came from idolatry. Whether it's the sacrifice to idolatry or it's the idol itself, the only mitzvah you can fulfill with it is destroy it. You're not allowed to sell it, you're not allowed to enjoy it, not allowed to do anything. So, Rav Zilberstein says that the following day when this psak came out, the Rabbanit, the teacher for one of the girls' seminaries, walked into a class for the first time with the mitpachat. Now the young girls in the seminary were asking Rabbanit, what happened? Did you become Sephardic all of a sudden? I mean, you're Ashkenazi, you always wear the wig. What happened? They were curious, the girls. And apparently had an open enough relationship with the Rabbanit. They were able to ask her a simple question. And the Rabbanit said to them, no. What happened is the Gdol Ador Rav Eliashiv said that these wigs are sourced from idolatry in India, and therefore it is forbidden to enjoy them. It's forbidden to wear them. And there's a psak, and we have to obey it. As she's completing this statement, the girls are asking questions, this and that. Suddenly, one of the little girls stands up, grabs her hair, and removes it, surprising the whole class with her bald head, surprising the whole class with the fact that she was wearing a wig, surprising the whole class that the wig was being used to hide the cancer that she was fighting in secret. But she removed the wig immediately, despite the embarrassment. Now Rav Zilberstein, in his way of Kedusha, he turns every story into an halachic discussion. He says, when he heard this story, he says, let's see, I mean, did the girl really have to remove the wig? I mean, technically, she's not like the average woman out there that's wearing it for beauty, to enjoy it in some way. She's really just hiding her shame. Isn't there a Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 19b, that says that the honor of the creation, meaning mankind, is so significant that it even at times overrides a rabbinical prohibition. But then Rav Zilberstein himself says the problem is that this is not a rabbinical prohibition. The issue of idolatry is viewed as a biblical prohibition, a Torah prohibition. But isn't there a Gemara in Kama, page 72b, with the Tosfot, the Baalei Tosfot, some say there were 2,000 sages in the Tosfot, one of them being Rabbeinu Tam, Rabbeinu Yom Tov, and many other Chachamim. They actually view that the sacrifice of Avodah Zarah is forbidden to enjoy based on a rabbinical prohibition, not a Torah prohibition. So how come we don't just listen to them? Why don't we just listen to them? Because we just said, if it's a rabbinical prohibition, then and this rabbinical prohibition is causing the dishonor of a Jew, then perhaps you have a permission to override this rabbinical prohibition. Why can't we do that? Because that's not the psak. The Tosfot said what they said. Great, the Chachamim, the Tzadikim, the Kedoshim, and sometimes they're right. In this particular case, that wasn't the psak halacha. What was the psak halacha? The Rambam in Hilchot Ishut, chapter 5, halacha number 1. Where you even see the Shara Melech commenting on here, saying that the Rambam paskin la that the sacrifice to idolatry, to Avodah Zarah, is forbidden to enjoy based on a Torah prohibition, not a rabbinical prohibition. And that is the psak halacha. So although some Chachamim said it's rabbinical, the psak halacha, the final decision, was not that. We're not considering it. We're considering it 100% Torah prohibition. Torah prohibition. Now, what about Torah prohibition? So if it's a Torah prohibition, that means that's it. I have to cause myself embarrassment? Well, you go back to the same Masechet Brachot, same Gemara, Masechet Brachot, page 19b, where it says that when it comes to a Torah prohibition, even if it leads to a person's embarrassment, let it be, he has to do it, he has to overcome this obstacle to such an extent that if he finds on himself in his own clothing kilayim, shatnez, somebody says, hey, those pants, what is that? XYZ made it? Oh no, those have shatnez in them. He finds out he's wearing that company that is known to have shatnez, and he didn't check for shatnez because he didn't even think about it, he forgot about it. That's a Torah prohibition. Every single second he wears those pants, every second he wears that jacket, every single second he wears that clothes is a Torah prohibition. And the Gemara says, as soon as he heard that he has kilayim on him, he has to remove it from himself, even if he's in the middle of a market, meaning there's a bunch of people, and he's going to walk around half naked now. Let him walk around half naked, and not walk around with a Torah sin, a biblical sin every second. This was also paskin la'alacha. Rambam Ilchot Kilayim, chapter 10, verse halacha number 29, the Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah, section 303, halacha number 1, Siman 303, halacha number 1. But Rav Zilberstein saw all of this, saw that he can't find any type of leniency for this young girl to wear this wig anymore, meaning that she has to replace her wig with a hat or mitpachat of some kind to hide what she's embarrassed of. Fine. But maybe there's a leniency still that she didn't necessarily have to do it at that moment. In the class, in front of people. Could have waited until she got home. But for such a question, you have to go to the Gdol Hador. Who do you go to? Rav Elyashiv. And Rav Zilberstein goes to Rav Elyashiv, and Rav Elyashiv says, since this is a Torah prohibition of idolatry and benefiting from idolatry, there is no leniency whatsoever that one can find that would allow her to keep that wig on for a single second. And therefore, every moment that she's wearing it, from the time that she heard about this being a sin, every moment becomes a sin that is against the Torah. And she has to remove the wig immediately. Final psak. Meaning that young tzadikah, that little girl, impressive mesirut nefesh, impressive self-sacrifice. But in reality, that's what's expected among all of us. That type of sacrifice expected among all of us. What's the difference between us and this little girl? Perhaps this little girl, this pure neshama that never sinned in her life, perhaps this neshama understood what it means to sin. What does it mean to sin? Rabotai Yekarim, what it means to sin to most people is literally something that people barely ever understand. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin, page 40a, brings a story. One of the Chachamim is meeting with a very powerful non-Jewish noblewoman. And this noblewoman is a beautiful woman, very, very wealthy, and extraordinarily powerful. She sees the rabbi, he's a holy rabbi, and she starts talking to him. And she says to him, "Why don't you be with me?" And he says to her, No, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. She says, "Perhaps, maybe you consider this, that." She's trying to be with him. "No, I can't. I don't feel good. I'm sick. Maybe you have something to eat." She says, "Yes, Rabbi, I have, but all I have is taref. All I have is pig." So the rabbi says to her, "No problem, make the pig." What? Eating the pig is any different than being with a non-Jewish woman? Go ahead and make the pig. Oh, okay, Rabbi. And you see this matronita, this noble woman, go, instead of using our countless servants that work for her, she stops herself. She's so hot for him, she starts cooking up a storm. She starts turning on the oven, getting everything ready, and as she's getting everything ready, in those days, the ovens weren't like today where you could barely even fit a chicken in them. The ovens back then were huge, were enormous. And as soon as the fire is on, Rabbi Zera jumps into the oven. He jumps into the oven. The matronita says to him, "Rabbi, what is this? What are you doing?" He says to her, "Matronita, it is better that I burn in this world than I'm gonna end up burning in the next world for being with you." She says to him, Kvod Harav, if I knew it was that bad, I wouldn't have even asked you. Meaning that it's better for you to jump into a fire and burn to its crisp and die than you being even for 1 second of physical joy with a non-Jewish woman or a non-Jewish man. It's better for you to burn and die. I wouldn't even ask you such a thing if I knew it. I wouldn't ask. How come not everybody does the same thing? Because not everybody knows as much Torah to know the ramification of the sin. What is really the ramification of the sin? What does it mean? How come some people, you tell them, "Listen, you know that girlfriend that you have? Yeah, she's great, isn't she? I'm not sure. I don't know her that well, but she's not Jewish, right? Yeah, but no, she's going to convert one day. Okay, great. But now she's not Jewish though, right? Like in the interim, she's not Jewish. No, but she's going to convert. Okay, fine. But for now, she's not Jewish, right? Yeah. But you're still in the same house. Yeah. I mean, we've been together for 5 years, Rabbi. Oh, okay. For now, you guys are still together and everything. Like a married couple. No. Yeah, but she's going to convert, Rabbi. Okay, fine. How come you can't just leave her for the next X amount of time until she converts? No, come on, Rabbi. I love her. I this, I that. Okay, fine. Your boyfriend, he's from, was grandfather Saddam Hussein? Yeah. You know you're not allowed to be with him, right? Yeah, but he's so nice to me, Rabbi. He just bought me a car. Okay, the car and him and you all going to go to Gehinnom together. You know that, right? No, he's so nice to me. He's nicer than all the Jewish boys that I met. Yeah, but in Gehinnom, you're not going to find any of those Jewish boys. You'll find him, though. You and him in the car. Come on, Rabbi, why are you so mean? It's not mean. It's what Torah says. I can't leave him, Rabbi. I love him. I can't leave her, Rabbi. I love her. Okay. You know all those films that you watch that cause you to waste seed? You have to stop. You watched the movie Tikkun Abrit? Yeah, I watched it, but Rabbi, I used to every day. Now, it's every other day. It's good, right? No. You're still going to go to Gehinnom. You're still going to go to Gehinnom and you're not coming out. Yeah, but I keep Shabbos. Okay, so on Shabbat in Gehinnom, they'll turn off the fire. That's it. But you're still going to be there. How long? Forever. Shem Yishmor V'Yatzil. Rabbi, how come you're so scary all the time, Rabbi? It's not scary. I'm just telling you the outcome of the circumstance that you're in. But Rabbi, I can't stop. I can't stop stealing. I can't stop immorality. I can't stop intermarriage. I'm in it. I understand you. Why do I understand you? First and foremost, my life. Second and most, I learned Torah and I learned this. In the Zohar Kadosh, in Tikkunei HaZohar, Tikkun number 34, page 75b. It says the following, Rabotai. There's the 5 parts of in essence, the overall, spiritual powers. 5 spiritual powers that Hashem instilled into the world, where you have the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, the chaya, the yechidah. These are 5 different parts. Now, don't get ahead of yourself and start aspiring to have the yechidah, because this is something only the Mashiach will get, the yechidah. The chaya, only the tzaddikim have. At best case scenario, have nefesh, ruach, and neshama. Now, Zohar says that the neshama and the nefesh, these 2 spiritual powers that a person can have, they're connected to each other inside a person. And therefore, when a person sins, the body parts are then taken over by the Satan and are then enticed to sin even further, as if it is no longer possible for the person to overcome their desires. This, Rabotai, is an atomic bomb that explains to us that sometimes you will see that a person is simply addicted to their sins, addicted to a forbidden relationship, addicted to stealing, addicted to lying, addicted to looking, and addicted to eating certain things that are forbidden, or perhaps even the allowed, but too much. Addicted to sins, and they can't help themselves. They just have to keep doing it, even if they heard the truth 50 times. What happens? That organ that's sinning, that body part that's sinning, is, the Zohar says, is simply being driven by the Satan. It simply has a influence of the Satan much more than a typical body part that you have, that especially ones if you do mitzvot in it. Now, what if a person continues to do such a thing? They literally get to a point where they start feeling that it is impossible for them to stop this desire, this drug addiction, this sex addiction, this food addiction, this immorality addiction. To them, it seems like it's impossible to stop. Why? Because they've made so many sins that their organs are literally addicted to the sin. And they psychologically feel like they can't stop it. Of course they can. It's all free choice. But there's so much influence of the Satan in their organs that's actually sinning, they feel like it's impossible to stop. And at that point, Rabotai, the neshama leaves the body, which leaves the nefesh alone. What is the nefesh? The nefesh, Rabotai, is the animalistic nature of a person. All of us have it, but so do the animals. Now, when we have nefesh and neshama, then we have not only the physical, but we also have the spiritual. We have the ability to think clearly, to learn clearly, to pray clearly, to do good things, where you have influence to do good. But when that neshama leaves, a person gets to a point where their natural inclination becomes more inclined to be based on desire rather than outcome of good or bad. And this explains what the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat 141b says, where that there's no such thing as an animal, a predatory animal, preying on a person unless the person starts looking to them like an animal. Now, even if a person has one of these awful haircuts of today and wants to look like a moose, still doesn't really look like an animal. Perhaps some people may confuse him to be an animal because of the spikes or because the hair is that way and this way and that way, and he looks like a little bit of a strange character, but nonetheless still looks like a human. If a lion looks at him, most likely he's not going to care. Shark sees him, most likely he's not going to care. Most likely. When is the shark going to care? When is the lion going to care? If that person has sinned so much that the neshama has left. And when the neshama leaves, the vision of the animals is different than the vision of people. Where because they don't have da'at of being able to tell right or wrong, they see things beyond what humans see. They see almost like the neshama of a person. And when the neshama of a person is simply, all that's left is the nefesh, if the soul of a person is all that's left is the nefesh, the animalistic part, that line now sees that person as not a person, as an animal. As an animal. And an animal, lions eat animals. Lions eat animals. Doesn't matter what kind of animal, a lion will eat it. A shark will eat all animals. Alligator, crocodile loves to eat animals. People, not so much. But if the person looks to them like an animal, they become lunch. They become lunch. Hence the reason of why Daniel the prophet or Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, the Or Chaim that I spoke to you about yesterday, both were thrown into a cage full of lions, and those lions had days to eat them, but were too scared to even scratch them. Why? They don't look like animals. They look like holy people. Holy people are something that lions and sharks and alligators are scared of. So then, if a person understands that part, he will understand the next part. The parasha this week, Parashat Balak, has an interesting section where you see that after Bilam sends his people to convince Balak, the prophet of the Goyim, to come and curse the Jewish people, Balak is excited to have him. He sends him dignitaries to bring Bilam, and Bilam comes and he rides his aton, his female donkey. And suddenly the verse says in chapter 22 that the aton sees an angel. Where it says in chapter 22, verse 22, God's wrath flared because he was going, and an angel of Hashem stood on the road to impede him. He was riding on a she-donkey, and two young men were with him. The she-donkey saw the angel of Hashem standing on the road with his sword drawn in his hand. And so the she-donkey turned away from the road and went into the field. And then Bilam struck the she-donkey. Meaning that Bilam, the human, didn't see the angel that the donkey saw. Why didn't he see Why? Because Bilam, despite being a prophet, had such horrific sins of bestiality, of filth, such spiritual filth, that even his donkey was at a higher level than him spiritually speaking, where she was able to see things that he is not able to. The donkey was able to see things that this Bil'am was not able to see. He has become an animal. Mamash, an animal. Hence the reason of why later on when the donkey says, haven't I slept with you all these years? Meaning that the donkey was his wife. And he was talking to her like a wife. He didn't see much of a difference between himself and the donkey. This is what happens as a result of sins. A person does not see the difference between them and their dog. They start walking around in the neighborhood with a baby carriage, but instead of having a baby, they have a dog inside. Oh, I love my dog. Pookie, cookie, dookie, dookie. Okay, why don't you have a kid instead? If you can have a kid, okay, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. But that's usually not the case. It's usually because you prefer a dog over a kid. You prefer a furry little animal over a child. Why? Because that's the stupidity of sins. That's the stupidity of sins that happens to people. Now, the Zohar Kadosh continues. It says that the neshama leaves the nefesh and then goes down to the area of the legs to see if it could park itself in the area of the brit. Because at least this brit, the person had a brit milah. So there's a kedusha there, because there's a mitzvah. So even if the person has sinned by stealing, by eating non-kosher, by desecrating Shabbat even, at least this neshama that no longer has the help, this nefesh that no longer has the help of the neshama, at least this nefesh can park somewhere that has holiness. But if he violated the brit, then the nefesh cannot even park there. And what happens when the nefesh cannot park even at the brit, cannot be there? Then this nefesh starts to travel non-stop around the person's body, causing this person to become restless, causing this person to become a person that can never be settled, can never have focus, can never have a day without anxiety. They're always anxious. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to get a job? Who's going to be? Who's not going to be? What do I have? What do I don't have? They can't have a single normal conversation. They're constantly nervous. They constantly need to do things. Rabbi, I don't know. I watch your shiur, but 2 hours, I don't understand anything. Did you watch it? Well, I watched it, and I also had to watch 15 other things. That's the way I watch. I'm sorry. You have a very serious problem, my friend. You have a very serious problem. You have to stop. You have to stop, and I understand it's not easy to stop because you feel like your desires are at a point where you can't control them, but you have to. It's the only way. But you'll see, and I have a ton of experience in this world where I see anytime somebody contacts me, I know whether they have an issue of Pgama Brit within literally a matter of seconds, based on the words that they choose, based on the amount of times that they send a message, based on the amount of times that they call, all types of different triggers. Pretty much, the more unsettled the person is, the more irrational a person is, the more erratic the person is, the more likely it is that this is the main issue that they're really suffering with. They may tell you they're suffering because they have issues with this or issues with that, but in reality, that's the issue. That's the issue, that they have so many sins that even their brit is now desecrated to the point where their nefesh cannot settle anywhere. It can't go anywhere in the body. It's constantly going everywhere like electricity, causing them to be restless, causing them to have nightmares, causing them to always have anxiety, always worry about things that didn't even happen and can't even happen. All types of concerns that are literally driving them and the world around them crazy. In so many words, Gehenna in this world. One time, the Gemara in Masechet Menachot, page 53b, says that one time, David HaMelech entered the bathhouse and realized that he's naked of his mitzvot. He can't wear a tzitzit, he can't wear a talit, he can't wear a tefillin, he can't carry a sefer Torah like the way of a king. He can't have a mezuzah in a bathhouse. Where's my mitzvot? He started getting scared. But then he realized, oh, Baruch Hashem, I have a brit milah. I can't think about Torah, but I know that I'm not naked of mitzvot. Because if I'm naked of mitzvot, my neshama is going to leave. When a person understands, the more they understand, the more concerned they become. And this, Rabotai, is the reason when he understood that this Brit Milah is saving him, he wrote a whole Tehillim about it. Which Tehillim? Tehillim number 12. Tehillim number 12, chapter 12 of Psalms. You see it in the first verse. Lamnatseach ala shminit mizmor leDavid. For the conductor on the Shminit, a psalm of David. What's a Shminit? A Shminit on the mitzvah that happens on the 8th day, the Brit Milah. The Brit Milah, Baruch HaShem, I'm going to sing a song for this Brit Milah, because at the very least, that even at the bathhouse, I won't be naked of mitzvot. In the Zohar, in Tikkun number 31, page 76a, Zohar says, there are rich people, rich Jews in the exile, that rely on their wealth, and on them it is said, those who are the ones who lose both worlds, because they think the world belongs to them, and therefore they do whatever they want in order to fulfill their desires. Whereas the poor tzaddikim, that are not chasing the desires of this world and don't have much in this world to take away the reward that there's for them in Olam Haba, their reward is fully preserved for their Olam Haba. So now you have yourself an understanding of responsibility of the rabbi, the issue of the magnitude of the sin and the horrific nature of it. Okay, but what about all those people that are sinning? Does the rabbi just take care of all the frum people? No. The Zohar continues. It says, but despite that these rich people are those that is written on them that they lose Olam, there on Olam Haba, this world and the next world, Hashem still does everything that he can in order to save those rich people from being completely destroyed. As it says in the book of Samuel, Samuel 2, chapter 14, verse 14, Yedid, where it says, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu think about? What does he think about? For we shall all die, like water flowing along the ground that cannot be collected. God spares no one. Let the king therefore ponder thoughts, that no one be banished from him. So here the prophet Samuel is saying what? It was actually a woman saying it. What is she saying? What's this teaching? Obviously this is words of Hashem. What is this? What is this teaching for? It says, first and foremost, you should know that if you want to have the right ideology, you should know HaKadosh Baruch Hu spares no one. If you sin, you will get punished. Doesn't matter who your rabbi is, doesn't matter who your abba is, doesn't matter what books you read. You sin, you'll get punished. Simple. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not desiring to destroy the whole world and destroy all of his creation. And therefore, he will do everything possible to make sure that you're not banished from him. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want to destroy and put a person in Gehenna, the 7th section of Gehenna, permanently. He wants to give that person opportunities. So he'll send him a lecture, he'll send him a CD, he'll send him a friend, he'll send him a friend that really cares about him, he'll send him a good rabbi, he'll send him all types of things that could try to get this person to wake up. And even if they all fail in waking him up, he'll try to give this person some type of strong message to at the very least have what's called Hiru'e Tshuva, the thoughts of Tshuva. Just at 1 second, you know what? My life is terrible. I'm really living against Hashem. I wish I could just change it. Just that thought can potentially save a person from eternal damnation. He'll still have to go to Gehenna for a zillion years perhaps, but it may not be forever. It may not be forever. And this, Rabotai, is what the Rambam mentioned in Ilchot Teshuvah, chapter 7, Halacha number 5, where that the prophets, all of the prophets, promised us that Israel will do Teshuvah, Am Yisrael will do Teshuvah. The only question that's left is how will they do Teshuvah? As the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says, either they'll do Teshuvah out of good, they'll hear Shiurei Torah and do Teshuvah, or Hashem sends them a leader like Haman, like Hitler, which will force them to do Teshuvah, because they realize that all of their desires and all the things they were addicted to are meaningless, as it happened in the Holocaust and unfortunately throughout history. But here we see that Am Yisrael, unlike any other nation, we do not have a break. Every other generation we saw that there was a massive disaster to our nation as a result of sins. Even if Hashem waited 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, letting us sin, eventually disaster came. One of the symbolic things that we have in our Torah that shows how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do Teshuvah, but we still have, in order for us to do Teshuvah, we have to be reminded of our sins, is this month of Tammuz. This month of Tammuz, what is Tammuz? It's not like Nisan. Nisan is named after Nisim, which is miracles. What's Tammuz? Tammuz is the name of an idol that Am Yisrael sinned, and therefore the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. So why do we have a month named after an idol? I mean, we have a teaching from our sages. Don't name your kids after evil people. Don't name your kid Nimrod, who went against Hashem. He's even worse than Hitler, because he caused people to become idol worshippers. Don't name your kid Esav. The Chachamim say that one of the reasons why Korach went against Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he started off in a good way, he ended up going against Moshe Rabbeinu, was because one of the princes in the descendants of Esav was also named Korach. And the name influences a person. Doesn't mean that he couldn't have done Teshuvah. He could, just like his sons did, but nonetheless, he didn't. So the name of a person influences a person. You should never name your kid after a bad person. Don't name your kid Hitler, and don't even name your kid after your grandfather that was a Mechalel Shabbat. Don't name your kid after evil people. Don't name your kid after wicked people. It's a bad thing. So how come we have a month in the Jewish calendar named after an idol? To teach us that we have to do Teshuvah, not just for the idol that caused the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, but rather Teshuvah for the idols of today. The idols of today, Rabotai, we have to constantly do Teshuvah. Now in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 9, it says, Ve'alachta bedrachav, that you go in his way, go in the way of Hashem. So we already learned that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way he thinks is that he's never going to let go of sins. He's going to punish people for sins unless they do Teshuvah. But on the other hand, he doesn't want to destroy us. So he needs us to have what's called Iulet Teshuvah. So how do we go in the way of Hashem? Our job in this world, Rabotai, is to get every single person to do Teshuvah. And even if we can't get every single person that we talk to, every single person that we know to do Teshuvah, at the very least, what we can do is give them what's called Hiulet Teshuvah. Enough truth to get them to think about perhaps they need to do Teshuvah. Perhaps they need to do Teshuvah. We'll finish off with a story. The Klosenberger Rebbe, Alav Shalom, was a Kodesh Kodeshim. Was the only survivor of the Holocaust from his family. His wife and 11 kids were murdered in cold blood. Horrible, horrible nightmare that he went through in the Holocaust. Countless stories of the miracles that happened in his life through the disaster, but nonetheless, how much suffering he had to go through. And despite all of the suffering, he built literally an empire of Torah in America, in Israel, in Germany. Literally, there is empire of Torah that he built. One of the 3 rabbis that literally built American Judaism, along with Rav Kotler and Rav Moshe Feinstein. So this Klosenberger Rebbe, one time, in one of his many projects, he built a hospital that I was born in Netanya. And this Klosenberger Rebbe, this tzaddik, this Malach Hashem, angel of Hashem. One time, they bring him a very wealthy man that was ready to donate a very large sum of money for one of the Rebbe's buildings. So he comes and meets the Rebbe, and there's a lot of people there. And the Rebbe says to him, "What do you do?" And the guy says, "Oh, I have all types of factories and this and that. But the Rebbe shouldn't worry about my hard work. All of these businesses already, they are mature and they run themselves. And me, myself, I don't even go to the office anymore. I just go play some cards with my friends and have a good time. My life is good." The Klosenberger Rebbe looks at him and he says to him, "Ata lo mitbayesh? You're not ashamed of yourself? That already you're in your 70s and you're still not learning Torah? Already in your 70s and you're still wasting your time. And what do you think? That your tzedakah that you give to all the yeshivot is going to help you in Shamayim? I have news for you," he says to him. "All of that tzedakah that you give, you're going to get punished for. Every single dollar that you give. Because that money that you're giving them is coming from gambling in the casinos. And therefore, those children that are eating off of that money that you donate to their yeshiva, that's why they cannot learn and have focus. Because the money that you're giving is tameh. It's full of impurity. And therefore, you are not giving tzedakah that's helping them. In fact, you are causing them not to be able to learn. And you'll get punished for each and every child that you're causing them not to learn." This multi-millionaire got the shock of his life. He's about to write a check for millions of dollars. Instead of Chazaku Baruch, instead of good job, instead of thank you, instead of even being quiet, the Rebbe gives him the truth that he never heard in his life. That not only he's in a bad position and wasting his life, but all the things he thought that he did good of giving tzedakah to build yeshiva, to build this, to build that in other places, it's actually going to cause him more suffering because the money wasn't kosher. Because he wasn't kosher. Immediately this embarrassment leads him to get up and leave. The Hasidim of the Klosenberg Rebbe said to him, "Rebbe, why? He was going to write a check for one of the Rebbe's buildings. We need it." The Rebbe says to them, "Rabotai Yekarim, I don't live with such an imagination to think that the words that I just said to him are going to make him change his life instantly. I don't live with such an imagination. But I know for sure that at least from this moment on, he will no longer enjoy the sin as much as he enjoys it now." What does that really mean from the Rebbe? The Kodesh Kodashim, the fire of Hashem. What does it mean? What is he saying here? I just gave this person musal that nobody here has the guts to do. Why? Because I love him. And I rather give him this musar and lose the opportunity to build another building of Torah. Why? Because that musar that hurt him, that hurt you, that hurt the building, that hurt everything, at the very least it's being like Hashem and caring about his people enough to give them a chance that one day their punishment will end and they'll be able to go to Gan Eden. At least he will have the Hil'ul Tshuva that can get him out of the Gehenom that he's building himself. And I did it because I love him. And I did it because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, V'alachta b'drachav. Go in my way. What's my way? Care about my people even if it means they're going to curse you and throw rocks at you. That's what tzaddikim do. That's what tzaddikim do. With that being said, Rabotai Karim, this means that each and every single one of us has an opportunity to be a tzaddik or a tzaddikah. How? Care enough. Care enough to help Am Yisrael, do tshuva. And even if you don't succeed in getting them to change their entire life, at least give them enough information that they'll think about. Maybe I should. Maybe thy way is really the wrong way. Maybe I can overcome it. That in itself can potentially save them. And that in itself is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is trying to do. Maybe he'll use you as a tool. BeEzrat HaShem, this too will give each and every one of us more chizuk to help more and more people do tshuva, get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu by emulating Hashem. By emulating Hashem. And may Hashem have mercy on us, that we always go in His way, and if we ever steer, He pulls us back regardless of how much it hurts. He pulls us back and He never loses us.
Seven years of lectures. Seven months of film editing. Countless hours of study by two rabbis. Information we received over 3,000 years ago. All for this moment. To whom had greed? The movie.
There's a small member in your body. It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough.
The Sofer clan, when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go.
Time for us to rectify what we have done.
Normal numbers should be somewhere around 20 million or higher.
You're never going to have control of it. If you start it, and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah.
Pornography is as addictive as crack cocaine.
You're always going to be happy, including this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen.